Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Digging Deeper moment number 147. The mission of our Digging Deeper moments is to take God's Word to God's world, and we are so glad that you've joined us, and we hope that before watching this lesson, you'll subscribe to our YouTube channel, which will help us spread messages like this to others. What we believe about the origins and what we believe about destiny, the future, are two of the four questions that form our worldview. Our worldview is the filter we use to interpret what happens to us in life, and it answers four of life's most basic and most important questions. The first is, where do we come from? That's the question of origins. What is wrong with the world? This is the question of suffering. What is the answer to our world's problems? This is the question of redemption. How do we fix our broken world? And what does the future hold, which is the question of destiny? In our last series, we looked at 8 things which we bring with us into our study of the book of Revelation. I did this series in part because what we believe about the book of Revelation is, as we saw, shaped by our worldview. But it also influences the development of our worldview because it addresses the question of destiny. And our worldview is constantly adjusting itself. Now, as I was concluding the past series, the thought occurred to me that it would be good to address another of the 4 questions that form and shape our worldview. And that is the question of origins. Where do we come from? And the answer that people come up with are diverse. They're debated, and some are somewhat divisive, as is the case with the book of Revelation. Maybe even more so on the question of origins. But like the book of Revelation, we all come into the subject of origins with mud on our feet. In other words, none of us comes into the subject of origins without some assumptions, something called presuppositions. Things that we presuppose are true but may not have tested to see if they're really true. These assumptions then influence how we interpret the Bible, reality, what happens to us in life, and science. And science and the Bible are 2 things in the crosshairs, by the way, of the subject of origins. Now, the first thing we want to talk about is our belief about God, or our belief that there is no God, because this greatly influences how we read the story of creation in chapters 1 through 3, and it greatly influences how we look at science. The belief that there is a God who was involved in the creation of the universe is called theism. The belief that there is no God and that nature is all there is called naturalism. And because no one can prove or disprove the existence of God, let me say that again, no one can prove or disprove the existence of God. Because of this, we build our beliefs about the origins of the universe on one of these 2 assumptions, theism or naturalism. And the reality is that most of us mix these 2 at different places and different times in our understanding of things. Now, there is a way, even though we cannot prove whether there is a God or there isn't a God, there is a way to test these 2 assumptions. And it is this: which of these 2 assumptions best fits with what we see and experience in the world? This series, however, is not about testing these 2 assumptions to see which one best fits with what goes on in the world. What we want to do in this series is a little bit different. What we want to do is, the point we are making in this series is that these assumptions, and we can come back to that sometime later, but what we're looking at in this series is the fact that these assumptions influence, filter, and impact what we come to believe about the subject of origins and how the universe came into existence. And this in turn influences how we read the Bible and even how we study science and what science has to say about creation. For instance, there's a big debate over the age of the earth. This debate is so severe that I heard one speaker say, somebody I really respect, he said that he won't even comment on what he believes about the subject of the age of the earth because people get too emotional and belligerent on both sides of the debate. This is quite unfortunate. In fact, it broke my heart to hear this because what this does is shuts down dialogue. And we really need more dialogue on the subject of origins, not less. Now, in reality, there are only 3 possible positions you can take about how old the universe is. And all 3 positions are influenced by their assumptions about naturalism or theism. There is no God or there is a God. For instance, the first position is that the universe is old, that the universe is somewhere around 13.8 billion years old, to be exact. And it is either self-existing, and that means it creates, it's been in and of itself, or self-creating, or it's always been. This view is called the Old Earth Naturalist view. And it assumes that there is no God, what's called atheism, or that God is uninvolved. That's agnosticism. The second position is what's called the Old Earth Creationist view. This view assumes there is a God, that's theism, and that he was somehow involved in creating the universe, but like the old earth naturalist view, they believe that the universe is old, around 13.8 billion years. Now, while they agree with the naturalist view that the universe is old, they disagree that there is no God, and they believe there is a God that was involved in the creating of the universe, which leads to the third position. The third belief is called the young earth creationist view. This view, like the old earth creationist view, assumes the existence of God, theism. But it disagrees with the old earth creationist view, and it disagrees with the naturalist view that the earth is old. This view believes that the earth and the universe is rather young, only thousands of years. Now, in this series, I'm not going to critique any of these three views. My point in this series is not to critique these views or take a position in these three views, but to show how these three views influence what we believe science and the Bible are telling us about the origins of the universe. In other words, we come into the subject of origins with mud on our feet. And what I'm trying to get us to see in this series is before we even begin to dialogue and debate with others, we need to look at our own feet to see what we're bringing into the conversation with us. And what I have found in my own life over the years is that when I do this on any subject, it helps me listen to others a little bit better, and it keeps me from getting into an argument, and I can stay and I maintain the ability to dialogue. If there's enough interest in a critique of these three views, I'll prepare one. And you can contact us at hello@eaglesnest.ch. But for now, we want to understand that all three views of the creation, the old earth naturalist, the old earth creationist, and the young earth creationist views, they have to make some assumptions because they can't necessarily prove what they believe or where the starting point is. And so these three views influence how we read the Bible and how we understand science. The next week, we're going to show how our assumptions specifically affect how we read the Bible. And the reason we will do this is found in Proverbs 18:17. Proverbs 18:17 says, "The first one to plead his cause seems right until his neighbor comes and examines him." In other words, all of us think we are right about any subject, including origins, until somebody challenges us. The question then becomes, does what we believe stand up to the challenge? And this is true of every belief, not just what we believe about creation. If this lesson helped you, please share it with a friend. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or check out our Sunday morning live podcast on either app or Spotify. And if you'd like to help us and partner with us as we take God's Word to God's world, you can do so by going to our website and clicking the How to Give tab. I hope to see you next week.